So, just trying to film a short little introduction here to Dooms, because I said I would do this and it's been a long time. So, Dooms is a board game that I have made, me, Doombella, hello. It's a very simple game, played on this board, I think a 12 by 12 board, nothing too incredibly big. As you see, there's this bar here. This is the mana system. That is the most important part of this game. It goes all the way up to 10. That is your kind of max mana, and you start with 3, and each player is going to gain 2. You may be wondering, what do I use mana for? So in this game, it's a deck builder. So you grab your cards and build your deck. So you usually have a max of 15, but I'm just going to grab a bunch of random ones since it doesn't super matter. So a sheep, currently, I have a lava temple, very messy. There are rules, and everything is organized. You can go on the document, and you can look, oh, farm animals, you have the sheep right here, costs 2 mana, has 1 health, and then we'll worry about the ability later. So it costs 2 mana, so at the start of your turn, do this, you usually go over here, draw a card, press the button. It's a little different at every little Dooms arena, so people can go ahead and make their own, but for this one, we load it in. I'm not really going to talk about that. You talk about that if for someone, if they're here and you're playing a game, they'll teach you what to do, but hit your button, so you draw your card, you summon, so that's 2 mana, and on the first turn, can't do anything, so you're just going to sit here and do nothing. And your opponent is going to take their turn, they're going to get the 2 mana, they're going to draw their card, let's say they play the horse. Horse is a 3 mana card. Make sure to go, 1, 2, 3, and then it's going to go back to you, you're 2 mana, and you keep playing cards. So let's just say the game's progressed a little bit more, because that's basically a simple cycle. And you got some guys that are moving, you're getting a little closer to each other, and so we got some guys here. You got a guy here, you got a guy here, yada yada yada. We'll talk about this. So, let's say it's your turn, and this is what the board looks like. So on your turn, you can move. So everything in the game has a movement of 1. So how this works is that you can move at any one of these dirt block areas. So you're going to be able to move anywhere here. Also, with attacking, most things have a range of 1. That's going to be by the R. So if you look here, there's an R. So let's go to sheep, for example. It has a range of 1. So I can hit anything within 1. So, very, very simple. And actually, you know what, let's focus on this. So, if something has a range of more than 1, that's like 2 or 3, it's going to be like this kind of star pattern. So anywhere in the dirt to be able to hit, and it's this kind of clean shape. And if it goes all the way up to 3, it would just continue going down this queen star pattern shape. So this is how it would look. Very, very big. Don't worry, most things in the game do not have 3 range. I think it's really about 1 card that's coming to mind that does. So very, very simple. Movement is a lot simpler. It is just this square, but bigger. So it's just gonna keep going down like this. Could be any of these squares if it was a movement of 2. Actually, it's a little long on the side, but you get the idea. Actually, no, it's perfect. So movement of 2 gives you access to any of these blocks. There isn't really anything with movement of 2, but you can also dash. Dashing will cost you 1 mana. So let's say you're on this sheep. You kind of go, alright, I'm going to move here, and I'm going to dash. It costs me 1 mana, move, and then the dash itself, you get to move another block, you get to move again. So that is the basics of movement in this game. And range, so that is what really matters. So let's say you're going to end your turn, and how we signify this one, at least in this random, you have a little bell here, ring it. Ends your turn. If you did something you want to undo it, you can, as long as your opponent agrees and you haven't won the battle. Since it's your opponent's turn, right? They want to go move their horse. Get him in range. The horse does 1 damage, so it can do 1 damage to the sheep, and then the sheep has a health of 1, so the sheep would just die. Pretty basic stuff. You know, it's in the horse's range, the horse is going to do damage to it. Let's say the sheep had 2 health. How we show this is kind of like do the orientation like this. So, oh, it took some damage. It's at half. Some mobs have more health. Talk with your opponent about that. It's just about showing it fairly. So, that is the very basics of the game. If you're wondering, how do I win this game? So, it's actually a pretty simple game to win. It's a lot like chess in a lot of ways. So let's say you were this blue player. At the start of the game, you get a king. Let's say this is your king hat, this phantom hat here. Place down anywhere in your deployment zone. So when you play down a mob, you have to play in your blue deployment zone. And with that, if your king dies, you lose the game. But also, if you kill your opponent's king, let's just say, I don't know, there's this piglin here. Let's rename Camel. Sure. If you kill their king, you also win the game. Pretty simple stuff. Place your king anywhere in the red. The king has 1 health, can't do anything, it just sits there. There's another way to win though. So you see this little red and this blue. So the red goes to the red player, the blue goes to the blue player. Pretty simple. So let's say you use this horse and you also have a move here or something for the next turn. So at the start of your opponent's turn, they have 5 turns to get a mob on one of these squares. If not, you win. So 5 consecutive turns. If they get a, let's say, this guy were to go here, bam, it sits on here, and progress stops, you go back down to 0. So those are going to be the 2 main ways of winning. These are the basic rules. I know if you go look at the document, there are a lot of pages, and more will be added. Most of these are just pretty basic rules. Of course, there's some things I haven't added rules for. Bees is one of the things I haven't done because I kind of don't want people to kill bees. Same thing with cats and pigs. You know, we gotta care about them. And we have a lot of other mobs here, and more rules will be added. These are just the basics. There'll be a second video going over more complicated things like terrain and all the images that I had to do for a board. But we're not going to talk about that here. So thank you very much for watching. I hope this made sense, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask or DM me. Thank you very much. Have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.